Marcus C. Williams here, and we are on our way very fast to Black History Month. And it's very interesting. Black History Month has its own interesting history to it, which I'm not going to dive into today. But I felt that being that it's Black History Month coming up, that there are a lot of things that need to be said that are not actually being talked about. Okay. So the first thing, and I think one of the most important things that's not talked about when it comes to Black history is Black excellence. Now, I don't know how many of you guys just recently saw the incident with what was going on in Florida, where now, let me give you some background, right? Because I want to just throw you in there so you have some, oh my God, it's a feeling. So what happened is in Florida, it's already required by the curriculum that they teach Black history. That's number one. But there is this program that they wanted to use for AP students, and they wanted to call it African American Studies. First of all, pump your brakes, number one. Now, here's the issue. Blacks, black, the term black for a representation of people is only used in America. And when I say America, I mean the United States of America, okay? So you go anywhere else, they do not use that as a term of ethnicity, but here in America, we use black as a term of ethnicity. And they've got this other term, it's called African American. Now, African American is a misnomer. And if you guys can't hear me, please say something, let me know. African American is a misnomer because it implies that you are African and have changed to American. I'll give you an example. Matter of fact, I'll give you two good examples. So we've got Charlize Theron, right? She's from Africa. She's white as the day is long, and she would be considered what would be an African American because she's African, and now she is American. She is an African American. Elon Musk, South African. He is a African American. I'm not from Africa. My family is not from Africa. I have no ties to Africa. I can't tell you about an Africa. Well, I mean, I can tell you more about Africa than most people because I love nature. I love animals. I've studied it very seriously. And I've studied Africa as a continent, which somehow people seem to forget, right? Like it's one of the most diverse continents as far as language and culture that we have in the world. But people seem to forget that. And they try to lump all of Africa into one group. And that's not okay. That's a very important thing. But to call me as I identify as and I identify as this for lack of a better term, right? Because we have, how can you say it? Culture and societal norms that we tie to either the concept of being black or African American. The words are used interchangeably, and I cannot stand the term African American. As you can tell, I have expressed this many times because I'm not from Africa. I'm not. I have no ties to Africa. My people are American Indian. Most blacks are American Indian. But somebody says, Lisa, yep, lots of races and cultures. My people are American Indian. Most blacks, as you would consider a black American, are American Indian. We have no ties to Africa. Let's talk about Marcus Garvey, since we're talking about Black history, Africa, and African American. Okay, so there's a movement called the Pan-African movement, and we've got some Garvinites in Rochester. Here's my issue with Marcus Garvey. Okay, a dude that shares a similar name to mine. I don't feel like he represents Marcus as very good at all. First of all, Marcus Garvey was not from Africa. He was not from the United States. Marcus Garvey was from Jamaica. I'm not from Jamaica. Black Americans are not from Jamaica. So we've got this guy from Jamaica telling Black Americans to go back to Africa. Pause. Now, let's be really serious for a second. If you had a white person preaching to Black Americans that they should go back to Africa, people would be up in arms. Up in arms. They'd be trying to tear shit up, set shit on fire, everything. And honestly, rightfully so. But we had this guy who looked like us, okay, that did not share the same lineage or patronage as us, okay, to tell us to go back to Africa. Now, here's some history on Marcus Garvey. First of all, he was bankrolled by a whole bunch of people that we would consider extremely racist and extremely elitist that had no affinity for Black people. That's number one. And he never went to Africa. Never, not once, went to Africa. And he died in England. And this was the person telling us as Black Americans that we should go back to Africa. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So let's move forward, because this is before that wasn't a thing, you know. Then we have people tell us, oh, well, we all came on slave ships. Bullshit. Bullshit. Okay, you cannot prove that. There are not records to prove that. That's something that's been popularized in the last, what do we call it? We're in what, 23 now? In what, the last 70 years, maybe? You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is a relatively new concept that Black people are from Africa. Before that, we knew that we were from here. So this new concept that Black people are from Africa, people just latched on to because they wanted a sense of identity, because most of our identity had been erased by the same people that told us that we were African. Now, if you want to say that Black people are African because all humanity comes from Africa, that is a different thing. Okay? That is a different thing, you know? However, the fact of the matter is that we've been here. You look at all of the drawings and the sketches, etchings, and everything like that from the early settlers in America. All of the Native Americans look Black. You've got the tribe. They're called the Blackfoot. You understand what I'm saying? They are Black. You think they were named after something that they're not? They were just called Blackfoot for no reason? You understand what I'm saying? So all of this has been lost forcefully. It's been stolen, let's be honest. Okay? This history of our Black culture has been lost and stolen, mainly by people that are in the elite class, and historically have been in the elite and been in government, because, you know, historically the government has been made up by elites in the last 100 years or so, and relatively even before that, you know, but even more so now. And if they're not in the elite themselves, they're being puppeted by them. Excuse me. So it's concerning to me when I see all of all of these African continent flags. First of all, again, going back to the fact that Africa is extremely diverse and has many, many nations. Dozens and dozens of nations are in Africa. Okay, I want to say it's a specific number, but there's a couple of countries that are broken up, and I'm not sure of the number right now. I'm gonna check so I can actually tell you right now. It says, and this is right. Like, this is the internet, right? So it's interesting that also we rely on the internet, which is the same people that push the same false information, but it's okay. Because sometimes it's worthwhile, at least a little bit, to get a general concept. Yeah, so it says it's 54, but it's really like 56, okay? Because there's at least 2 countries that have not been identified as being their own independent nations, but have at least 30, 40 years of history of fighting for their independence, or considering themselves to be independent. You know, they've been, as far as they're concerned, independent longer than I've been alive. So Africa is represented by one flag. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. You can go inside internally in a country. We take, for instance, and this is just one country, right? This has happened in many countries, especially Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Congo, which are two separate countries. But you know, you look at like the Hutu and the Tutsi. Okay, both black, both live in the same places, warring with each other, can't stand each other. And this goes back to Dutch settlement and a whole bunch of stuff there who they gave preferential treatment to. But that's a whole nother conversation about the colonization of Africa, which we're not talking about today because we're talking about strictly Black Americans. But I felt like that needed to be put out there. Is there a North American flag? Is there a South American flag? You understand what I'm saying? Is there an Asian flag? And it's interesting that this African flag is something that Blacks in America made up. Wait, no, that doesn't sound right. Who voted for this flag? Where did the push for this flag come from? And I could talk about Muammar Gaddafi and him trying to unite the African continent as one and all of this stuff and all of that stuff. But that, again, that goes away from my point for today. My main point is that Black people in America, Black Americans, are not from Africa. We are not of Africa. We are of America. Please, please, please stop pushing this ridiculous narrative. And this message is largely, especially for Black people that are pushing this message. It's not true. It's not true. I put up a video the other day, and if you're watching me on YouTube, I didn't post it on there. I'll try to put it in the YouTube shorts later. Shared from this guy, and the guy was like, hey, if slavery ended in the late 1800s, and we had pictures from back then, and people had pictures taken of their black family members in America, and we've got pictures of all of these white people coming over from Europe on ships in America, how come we don't have any pictures of Black people being brought over on ships from Africa? Now that's something to think about. But the fact of the matter is, and drink water. That's my advice to you. Stay hydrated. But as far as that goes, another interesting fact is we don't have any slave ships. Never had any. Can't find them. Don't know where they are. Never seen them. There's one that they say is a recreation of a slave ship that they found. That's it. You mean to tell me that they brought hundreds of thousands of people over here and you can't find any of the ships? None of them? None of them. Not one. Excuse me, you guys, 1 second. And you can't find any of them, not one of them. Something just doesn't sound right about that story. Now let's jump into basic economic theory. Okay, the positive thing that we can all say about economics is that the concept of having a business is to make money and profit and to do what you can to maximize your profit, right? So if we've got, and if you guys aren't familiar with the Trail of Tears, which I'm about to talk about very briefly, go look up the Trail of Tears. Okay. And I'm going to bring back to Trail of Tears and Andrew Jackson later on. But the Trail of Tears, where Andrew Jackson, okay, the president of America, okay, at the time, also known as the Indian Killer, right? It's Andrew, the Indian Killer Jackson is this dude's title, the founder of the Democratic Party. He split the Democratic Republican Party so that the Democrats could keep slaves. Yeah, that's a fact. You can go look it up. Like, I'm not just spouting off some nonsense here. That is a real thing. And since that time, the policies of the Democratic Party have continued that, I guess, what would you say? Those policies of restrictive, subversive indoctrination is what I'll say, right? Like, everything that the Democrats push is for reliance on the government, okay? Now, that's just a new form of slavery, you know? They say that, the jail is basically uh, shadow slavery, and it really kind of is, right? Because they're profiting off of the people, because the people are reliant on the government to hold these people and pay them to keep the people, and a whole bunch of other nonsense. If you guys follow me on anything, I'm very, very adamantly against comprehensive prison reform. I'm very adamantly for comprehensive prison reform, because I'm very adamantly against the way the prison system is structured. There's no rehabilitation, which they call them rehabilitation facilities. There's no what's the other thing they call them? Rehabilitation, and I can't remember the other term that they use for prisons, but they're just not that. They don't rehabilitate people, and they're not designed to, and the whole system needs to be overhauled. But somehow the Democrats in New York State, where I live, are all, oh, we care about the people, we care about the black people, oh, so much, but none of them have ever one time. Now, corrections, right? Corrections. Thank you so much. Yeah, they call it rehabilitation, and they'll call it corrections, and they ain't rehabilitating or correcting nothing. Okay, if anything, they're making it worse. And if you've ever dealt with the prison system, or have family that have gone through it, or even live in a high crime neighborhood, you know that's a fact. But all of the policies that are put out there, the Democrats in New York State, and I use New York State. I could talk about many other states, but I'm in New York State, and we are democratically controlled from the top down and the bottom up. Okay, all levels of the state are pretty much controlled by the Democrats, and the policies are controlled by the Democrats, and never one time have they pushed for comprehensive prison reform. Why? Why? You understand what I'm saying? Think about it with your head, with your brain. Yeah, you're right. The whole system is corrupt, 100%. And the Democrats want it to stay that way. They want it to continue to disadvantage and disenfranchise us so that they can keep us under their thumb. But anyway, that just again, going back to Andrew Jackson, this isn't something that changed. Remember, the Democrats opposed civil rights. Okay. The Democrats were the ones who instituted Jim Crow. Okay. The Democrats were the ones who passed who put together Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society project. Please look up Lyndon B. Johnson and the Great Society, because if you don't know what that is, and you say that you care about blacks or are concerned about black history or any of that, you need to look up the Great Society project that was pushed by Lyndon B. Johnson, which basically just expanded social welfare and made blacks more dependent on the federal government. It also pushed fathers out of homes in black communities so that the women would be more reliant, and so that we would have less children, and that we wouldn't be able to form a united front. Lyndon B. Johnson also was the one who put into effect the current nonprofit guidelines, which churches have to register as nonprofits so that they can not be taxed. And because of that, that's why you see a lot of churches aren't able to participate in politics, because in order to keep their nonprofit status, they're only able to say so much. Okay. So I see you said something. I'm going to come to that in a second, but I'm going to keep going. But so, dang it, you made me lose my train of thought. Let me see what you said. I have some Republicans change to Democrats and vice versa. 6-1, half a dozen of the other. Yeah, it's. I'll try to cover that. That's not my intention, but I'll try to hit that in the head in a second. But the fact is that the policies, we had under what's it called them? When what's his name was senator, our current president, Biden, he lays claim and is very proud of the fact that his signature is on all of the mass incarceration bills. All of them. All of them. And he's proud of this. All of the bills that disenfranchise our people, push fathers out of the houses, and criminalize us for breathing, Joe Biden's signature is on. Okay. That's it's crazy. He's also very well known as the last of the Dixiecrats. Okay. The racist behind people. He's good friends with Bird and the other dude. What's the other guy's name? I can't remember his name, but if you guys remember the other dude's name, he just died about a decade, 10 years ago or something like that. But these dudes were open members of the KKK, right? And these were his homeboys, you know? So it shows you where his thought process is. It's very, 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 very problematic that we do not nowadays, as far as being Black, look at the policies and how they'll long-term impact us. It's really what they do is they come together with a whole bunch of things that make us have feelings. Oh, I feel that, I feel like that's something I should have. And we feel this sense of entitlement now because we feel that we have been so disenfranchised over decades that we need the government to give us stuff. You know, so I'm going to use that to jump into reparations, and we're going to have to wrap back around to the African American studies in Florida. I just can't. But as far as reparations go right now, that's a really big conversation. Everybody wants reparations. Everybody wants reparations. For what? Were you a slave? No. Okay, so you weren't a slave. So you want reparations for what happened to your ancestors historically. Okay, that's understandable. How much? How can you quantify it? How can you put a number on something that you're saying has been institutionalized and has been put together to prevent you from moving forward? And if you are one of those people that believes in institutional racism and you're pushing for reparations, you sound insane. How can you possibly believe in institutional racism? And the concept of institutional racism, if you guys aren't aware, is very simple. It's the government has set up and rigged everything against Black people, so we are not able to benefit. Okay. So, but these same people that complain about institutional racism are demanding, many times through very uproarious activities like destroying buildings and setting stuff on fire and causing riots, that we be treated equally. Now, I need you to process that, right? So the people who are saying that everything's racist and there's institutional racism are demanding from the people who say that they're racist, that these people have created a whole system to hold them back, are demanding from these people to treat them equally. Who's stupid? You or them? Who's stupid? Because that's like telling your enemy to treat you nice. Oh, dear enemy, please treat me nice. You should treat me nice. You sound stupid. You sound foolish. Okay? And I don't care how you feel about it, honestly, because listen to what you're asking for. You're asking for your enemy to treat you as an equal. I'm not saying that they're the enemy. You're saying that they're the enemy. I'm just going off of what you're saying. Doesn't make any sense. Okay? Now you're asking these people that you say have created this whole situation to keep you deprived for reparations. Now, God damn it, that doesn't make any sense at all. How are you going to tell me that these people have set everything up to disenfranchise you and then you're going to go beg them for money? Please, somebody, anybody in the comments, explain to me how that makes a lick of sense. America is based on one philosophy. That if you want something, you can do it. You can go get it. Go get it. Okay? You think that all of these hundreds of thousands of people are coming through the southern border, okay, and they don't know how America treats people? Hell no, but they know that in other countries it's way worse. America is one of the least racist, most diverse nations in the world, period, point blank. Refute it if you want to. Come up with some statistics that prove me wrong. Because you can't. Because you absolutely can't. And many people want to talk about Europe. Oh, Europe is so great. Not for fucking Black people. Okay? I don't know if you've been a Black person and gone somewhere. Okay? In Europe. Hell no. Okay? Don't get me started on that. But I digress. Back to the reparations part. You're demanding reparations for people who you say have set up a whole system to be against you. That's just unreasonable. Now, the conversation about reparations is we want money. We want money because it sounds good, right? That's one of those things that tugs at your inner self, right? Oh, I deserve it. I want it, and somebody's going to give it to me. Okay? So you want it, you deserve it, somebody's going to give it to you, whatever the case is, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's a feeling. You're working off of your emotions. Okay? You're not working off of logic, which they have taken away from us because critical thinking isn't in school. You're lucky if you get one course for 6 months about critical thinking, even if you're in a private school. Like most schools don't even have anything. Oh, don't be in a public school because you really aren't getting it done. Because why would they train you to think critically? Because that means that if you were able to actually think and think critically, you might see that what they're pulling on you is a flim flam. Okay, I just read an article this morning talking about they want $14 trillion for reparations. Why? How? Why and how, right? Now, people will say, oh, well, they can just print the money because they print everything else. First of all, the people on the left always like to talk about whataboutism, right? That's whataboutism right there. Okay? What happens when you print? Let's go back to economics. What happens when you print a ton of money? The value of the dollar is less. So you're asking for them to put together all this money for you, and it's going to be worth less than what you have now. You're going to end up struggling more than what you are now because you're asking for the wrong things. You understand what I'm saying? Because we are so concerned about ourselves as individuals. Now that's an American concept. That's not necessarily a Black concept. But remember, Blacks are Americans, and the culture is very similar. So that's a very American concept. And it's not a traditional American concept. It is a relatively new American concept. Not the individuality, but the let me focus only on myself and what I want, right? Gimme, 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 gimme. It used to be about the family. It used to be about your name. You know, like I'm a Williams, like my family, the Williamses, right? Like, let me do honor to my family name. Okay, you're a Washington. Let you do honor to your family name. What are you going to do to help build for your future generations? You understand? Like that used to be the concept of Americans. But now it's what can I get for me right now? Oh, YOLO. Oh, the future isn't promised. Oh, all of this bull jive and that bull jive. And it set us up with a ridiculous mindset in which we're not even able to think past our day-to-day travails because that's how they've structured everything. They want it to be hard for you to get money. They don't want you to be able to provide for yourself. They don't want you to be able to create your own food. They don't want you to be able to have reasonable prices for electric or gas. Why would they want you to do that? Because the more of these things that you have easy access to, the less power and control that they have over you. You understand? And that's something that people keep forgetting. So when you're asking that they want $15 trillion, where's that money going to come from? Out of somebody's butt? You understand what I'm saying? If we take $15 trillion, and let me try to be specific right now, because I want to try to make sure that I don't say something wrong, because this is important. This is extremely important. What is the amount of American debt? So about the current amount of American debt, and I'm not looking at the national debt clock, but we have one of those too, is about, let's see, $33 trillion, right? $33 trillion. And a large portion of that has been added in the last couple decades, okay? So $33 trillion, and you want to add another $15 trillion on top of that? What do you think your dollar will be worth if eggs are $9 a thing right now? If you go buy a loaf of bread and it's $5 right now, how much do you think a loaf of bread is going to cost that? So let's be realistic. If we're going to talk reparations, I got the solution. Hold on. If we're going to talk reparations, I got the solution. And I've already talked to my state assembly person about this, who is a Democrat, who kind of like laughed at me and thought that it was funny, but I'm the only one being realistic in the room. I'm very conservative, and we have many conservative people who are extremely passionate, and I disagree with the way that they phrase things and they go about certain things, because that's not going to get them the desired result. You understand? So my assembly person, I brought this to, and he felt like it was a joke. I'm like, I'm dead serious. Like, you guys are out here, your state delegation of Democrats keep talking about reparations, like they're ever going to give us anything anyway. Like I want anything from them. But that's a whole nother conversation, because anything that comes from the government usually has strings and all types of other stuff attached to it, whatever the case is, boo. But I brought it up to them and I said, listen, we need tax-free for 10 generations. Okay? So 10 generations, if you go back 10 generations, that's 64 grandparents. Okay? So that's about 64 grandparents if you go back 10 generations. So that's a lot of people. If you go forward, that's 64 generations, 64 separate, separate sets of family members going forward. So tax-free for 10 generations is my pitch for starting off to get reparations. Why? Because one, we're not taking any money from anyone. And two, we already have, as Americans, okay, we already have seen this happen before, and it's already in the structure, right? We've got the Native Americans, they're non-taxed, right? So if we want something like, and this is crazy because people don't understand, right? They don't understand the value of not having to pay taxes and how much that'll save us. Think of it, 64 people from your lineage, okay, including their families, would be tax-free. Do you understand, okay, the power of compound interest, right? They say that that's the most powerful thing in the world is compound interest. And that's basically what that is. It's like, do you want $1 million or do you want a penny that doubles every day for a month? People hop on that $1 million and they just forget about the penny, and the penny would be worth more at the end of the month than the $1 million. Now, I did hear one guy say something one time as a reason that he would choose the $1 million over the penny. He said, because I might not live through the whole month. Fair. That is a very fair statement. Lightning could strike you, okay? An asteroid could bust you upside the head. Any number of things could happen. So I understand that concept. But if we're talking about longevity and we're talking about really being impactful for the Black community, if we want reparations, tax-free. State tax-free, federal tax-free, 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 tax-free. Okay. But asking them for money is going to end up costing us more in the future, because now there's a saying, and I'll use this as a great example. It's better than I can make an example. It goes, and I'm paraphrasing. It goes, if you took all of the money from all of the millionaires and billionaires, okay, in 1 year and gave it all to people that are in poverty or in the working class, it would be back in their hands within a year. It'll be back in, because spending habits, financial literacy, money creation tools, tax avoidance vehicles, investment skills, like people don't have that in the lower class and in the middle class, really, because it's not taught to us, and it's not taught to us intentionally. How many people do you know that are in the poor or the middle class that went to Horton for business? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't talk about these things, but people want things that sound good to them. And really, we are being misled, and we are being separated, and we are being divided. We are being divided as a nation because of it. And if we step back a second as Black Americans and we looked at it, we could see that this is mostly being pushed by these neo-Marxist white liberals, okay, who are not us, who have no affinity for us. And whenever they come around, they're like, oh, I'm an ally. Oh, I'm an ally. No, fuck that. You are not an ally. Anybody that calls themselves an ally, a Black ally, that's an American, is not an ally, because we are all countrymen. We are all countrymen. All Americans are countrymen. So for you to say that you are a black ally is beyond comprehension to me, because shouldn't you already be a part of the team in which I am working to promote, which is America, which is the benefit of our country? Because I live in this country. I don't live in. I could care less what happens in let's just say Italy. I'm not in Italy. I can't do nothing about Italy. I couldn't care about Italy because we got problems over here. Or Botswana. I'm not from Botswana. I can't do nothing about Botswana. I got people over here dying outside, freezing in the cold. We got a homeless population out here that's crazy. You understand what I'm saying? So the focus is being distracted. And I want to hop back to the Florida thing real quick before we go too far, because I got a couple of other things I want to touch on moving forward. So the Black History Month is coming up, and people are mad at DeSantis because he banned African American studies. First of all, I'm going to say it again because I'm going to say it every time that somebody says something different. Okay, we as Black Americans are not African Americans. We are not from or of Africa. Thank you. End of story. Exclamation mark. Okay, so now with the bill that these are the concerns from the course. Remember, Black history has to be taught in the curriculum. It's part of the curriculum for schools in Florida. So, but this is the AP African American Studies, and I don't want to belabor these too much, so I'm just going to read you the topics. Okay. Intersectionality and activism. Nope, fuck that. Number one, nah. That ain't got nothing to do with being Black in America. I'm not with it. No, that is not Black history. That is not teaching Black excellence. No. Because you're telling me that this is Black history. If you're telling me it's Black history, let it be so. Because you done made up some other shit and you want to slap our names on it and what people believe to be our names on it and then tell us that it's for us when it's not. Okay? That's like putting a label on dog food and calling it parrot food. Okay, that's not for the parrot, that's for the dog. Even though you try to say that it's for the parrot, I'm not with it. Okay. Black queer studies. What the flying monkeys turds? Black queer studies is Black history? Absolutely not. Absolutely effing not. No, we're not doing that. Okay. Movements for Black Lives Matter. Still, again, nothing about Black excellence, nothing about all of our wonderful inventors, nothing about our glorious history, nothing about our very awesome towns and inventions and patents and contributions and architects that built DC and all of that. None of that is in this curriculum, okay? Black feminist literary thought. Are you serious? Are you serious? What does this have to do with Black history? Nothing. All of these things that I've mentioned already are neo-Marxist, socialist nonsense that they're trying to continue to thrust upon Black people. It's a problem. Let me continue forward with that. Two more. The reparations movement. Now, let's go back to the separation of the Blacks and the Republicans, since they want to talk about the reparations movement. Back after the Civil War, we as Blacks had more representation in Congress than we do right now. The Democrats like to say, oh, we're so diverse, we're so diverse. Are you? Are you? Because we still don't have as many Black people in there now in Congress as we did then. And guess what? All of the Blacks were Republicans, because they knew about the Democrats back then. They hadn't been brainwashed by all the information that's been pumped. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they knew better. But then the Democrats pushed for the Reconstruction, and they kicked all of the Black people out of Congress. Now, at the time, right after the Civil War, the Republicans pushed for reparations for Blacks, and then the Democrats brought in this nonsense about the Reconstruction. Look up the Reconstruction. Look up the history. I'm not going to belabor that point. Go look it up. You need to know your American history. It's important. Moving forward, the other thing in this course is Black study, wait for it, and the Black struggle in the 21st century. Now let me read to you what the included reading is here. Robin D.J. Kelly argues that activism, rather than the university system, is the catalyst for social transformation. First of all, that's a lot of bullshit words that don't go with being Black in America. Okay. Kelly's first book studies was Black Communists in Alabama. See, there you go with the Marxism bullshit right there. Okay, there you go. Right there in your face. Okay. Kelly warns that simply establishing safe places and spaces and renaming campus buildings does nothing to overthrow capitalism. Let's talk about Black capitalism, right? So over the last couple of years, a lot of people have liked to talk about Black Wall Street and Toulouse and stuff like that. These were cities where Blacks thrived under capitalism. We thrived. Okay. And the same people that are so, pro-Black Wall Street, it's horrible what happened to them, are the ones talking about they want to overthrow capitalism and push Marxism. Are you outside of your mind? Like, do you know Black history, American history? Like, are you understanding what happened? Like, you don't know. I'm going to do my best not to go down that rabbit hole right now. Okay. So moving forward, and this is the problem, right? So they're telling Black people right now that, DeSantis is racist. He's terrible. He's showing his true thing by getting rid of this African-American studies. None of that shit that I just talked about represents me as a Black person. Okay. Or do I consider Black excellence or have anything to do with Black history? Okay. None of that's going to make us great or encourage us to be better or encourage us to be greater. It's just not. It's going to encourage us to not know who we are personally, to separate the Black family, to separate the family unit, to move away from religion. It's going to encourage us to have more single parent homes. And it's going to encourage everything. All of that encourages dependence on the government. And that's not okay. And moving forward away from that topic, first of all, before I move away from that topic, let's be very clear. What they did in Florida by removing this was a very positive thing. You understand what I'm saying? And anybody that thinks different needs to actually do more research. They don't know, or they don't care, or they're trying to trick you and play on your feelings. I mentioned that earlier. That's how they operate. All right. So moving forward, let's talk about, we talked about reparations. We talked about reparations. We talked a little bit about Black Americans being American Indian and not being from Africa. Okay. Let's talk about the Black Revolution, right? So who's pushed these concepts of Black Revolution that we know now? Marxists. So we look at the Black Panthers, okay? And I applaud some of the things that the Black Panthers did, okay? Because I'll stand up for anybody else's rights the same way I'll stand up for mine. And anybody that's sticking up for a particular right, I support that, not necessarily them and their group as a whole. So the Black Panthers, Marxist group, okay? You look at Black Lives Matter, a neo-Marxist feminist movement, okay, that is anti-Black man. This is what the founders said, they're all they're like, we're classically trained Marxists. Like it's a good thing. Fucking no. Like it's a problem. So you look at Martin Luther King, and I know a lot of people are going to feel really, really raw on this, but I'm using this to go into another direction after this and circle back. So Martin Luther King, some of the stuff that he's done, I don't pump with either, because originally, and this is the problem with history, right? Like people don't know the history. So Martin Luther King's affluent and didn't know what the struggle really was until he actually started to participate in the civil rights movement. Like he said, I didn't even know that this stuff was issues or problems or whatever the case is. But one thing I'm really happy about Martin Luther King is he always preached unity and fellowship and doing it together. But again, after they killed him a year later, okay, almost to the month, that's when they pushed the tax code so that churches couldn't participate in politics. I'm just saying. But, it's interesting that we have this concept of Black revolution, and I want to talk about Kyrie Irving, who is got a lot of my support because him and his values are, for the most part, he stood up against those, the things, those cocktails that they tried to force on everybody, and said, I'm not doing it. Okay, very publicly, because it should be a choice. It should be a choice. Don't get it twisted. Okay, and you should not deny people's ability to participate in society if they don't want your cocktails inside their body. Period. Point blank. Okay. So Kyrie Irving did that. So I was very, very, very proud of him for that, and I was very happy because that's one of the few people that spoke up on that. Shaq spoke up a little bit, but not really, and then he said some other stuff that I wasn't too happy with. But Shaq also said it shouldn't be forced. And these are important things. And most recently, he's gotten some flack for not wanting to wear the Pride jersey and stuff like that and whatever. Bro, more power to that dude, because you ain't never going to see me put none of that on my body. You outside your mind. Okay? I don't support that nonsense because it doesn't actually represent what they try to tell you that it represents. And now with the new flags, they're trying to add on the new, listen, and let me go back one step. Remember when they added Black people to that flag? I didn't ask to be added to that flag. We didn't have a Black people meeting to ask if we want to be added on the alphabet people flag. They just did that. Okay. And then told us that it was good for us. Then last month, first of all, I don't even remember what the hell the circle is that they got on there, or the yellow thing that they got on there now, because they got so many damn things. You can't even tell what it is anymore. Interesting timing of having churches not be political. Yes, right? Because of the time, like right after Martin Luther King was assassinated. Then Lyndon B. Johnson, again, going back to Lyndon B. Johnson was the one who put that in play. Okay. Look up Lyndon B. Johnson and the Great Society Project. Look it up. It's very important learning. But the new flag, now they put sex workers on there. They got it like an umbrella, a red umbrella for sex workers. Okay. And people feel how you will about sex workers or whatever the case. It's an honest living. Okay. Whether you agree with it or not, it's an honest living. However, a lot of the circumstances surrounding it are very no bueno. Okay. Especially sex trafficking, which is a very big issue right now because of the border and because of the ports. Because the ports are run by China and the border is run by the cartels, and there's smuggling and sex trading. And anyway, we're not going to talk about it. Also, where do all the disappearing Black girls go from DC? How do we lose thousands and thousands upon thousands of Black girls every year in DC? Who's taking our children? Who's taking our children? Who's taking our Black girls? Do you know how hard it is to find a good Black woman? You understand what I'm saying? I got a lot to say about it. We're not talking about that today. But it's crazy to me that now they want to put minor attracted people on the alphabet people flag. Now, minor attracted people are fucking pedophiles. That's what they are. They just come up with a new name. They call them maps. And they want to put them on there. Absolutely not. I don't want nothing to do with it. Excuse me. Don't try to associate me with it or none of that. Let anybody wear whatever they want. I don't care what type of flag. I don't care whatever it is. Let them, again, I told you I'm very strong. I'm very pro-Constitution. So let them do whatever they want as long as it's within the Constitution I'm with. I'm not going to be like, I'm with what they're doing, but I'm with the right that they have to do what they're doing. So that's a very, very important distinction. But I'm not going to do it. What was the Russian guy that plays for the NHL? If you guys know who I'm talking about, the Russian guy that plays for the NHL that said he wasn't about to wear the Philadelphia Flyers gay alphabet people thing. Put his name in the comments if you know his name. Anyway, all of his jerseys sold out immediately because he was like, I'm not with it. I'm not let anybody do whatever they want, but it's against my religion. I'm not with it. Thank you for standing up. But back to Kyrie Irving, because it's important. He's got some shoes. Then he's been in it with going back and forth with Nike because he stood up to them because of their stance on, it shouldn't be forced. Nike's like, no, F you. You shouldn't tell everybody to pump those cocktails into their body, even though we know that it's causing a lot of people to die suddenly. Interesting. Even though many European nations, who all of these Marxists hold up as being the gleaming light on a hill, okay? Even though many of those European nations have stopped those cocktails for people under the age of 35. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. Like, this is real stuff. Stay hydrated. This is real stuff. You know, we have a serious issue when it comes to large corporations pushing stuff on us. And Kyrie Irving has stood up. So recently he's had on the side of his shoes, he's been wearing his older shoes because they canceled their contract with Nike, because Nike was like, you're not about to say stuff that we don't like you saying, even if it's true. And he's written on the side, Black Revolution. Okay, Black Revolution. So that is an important concept and conversation. Okay, what does Black Revolution look like? So a couple years ago, last year now, 1 year, wait, no, was it 2 years? I can't even tell you, between COVID and everything else and the lockdowns and everything else, my time schedule as far as years is all the way off. Because it's just happened so fast and so slow all at the same time. Anyway, I want to say a year or 2 years now. But January 6th, right? You guys remember January 6th? Okay. January 6th, the day when they, that's 2 years. Biden's been in there 2 years, right? Jesus, it's too long already. Get him out of there. Anyway, so January 6th, there were a whole bunch of people that slid down to Washington to redress their grievances with their government. Okay, as the First Amendment says. Like, people don't understand that in the First Amendment, right there, it says that you have the right and the ability to redress your grievances with your government. That's why we have the Second Amendment. If you guys would like a pocket constitution, I have them. I will get you a pocket constitution. If you want one, please drop a comment, shoot me a message, or whatever the case. Call me on the phone. Okay, reach out, preferably send me a text message. That way I'll have it and I'll remember. And I'll get you one, because I think it's important for everybody to have a pocket constitution and a copy of the Declaration of Independence. So let's see if I can find it here real quick, just so I can read it verbatim. Which we can also talk about how they're getting rid of script in school, so you can't read the actual founding documents. But that's a whole nother conversation. First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting, you guys know what I'm saying, that prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Semicolon, because punctuation matters, semicolon, or abridging the freedom of speech, comma, or freedom of the press, semicolon, because remember what I said about punctuation is important, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, comma, and to petition the government for a redress of their grievances. I'm going to read that part again, because that's a part that's missed. And to petition the government for a redress of their grievances. I'm just going to say it right off the bat. They are working on restricting our First Amendment completely, and they continue to do stuff to chip away at it bit by bit, part by part, and they're coming for the Second Amendment too. And as we know, you got to have the Second Amendment so you can keep the First Amendment. There's a comedian out there, and the joke goes from the comedian that it's the second thing that we wrote. Like, it's the second thing that we wrote. So the first thing was, you can say whatever you want to say, but you better have a gun. And it's funny because it's true, right? Because if people don't like what you're saying, they will come and they will attack you and they will try to get you. There's a guy, oh my God, I wish I had the DJ's name. It's a black dude. I can't remember his name. And he's like, you don't necessarily need a gun. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a gun, but you need to support the right for you to be able to protect yourself. Because if somebody comes at you with a gun and all you got is a knife, it's going to be a problem. Okay? And you're not going to be able to save your life. And also, how are you going to protect your family and your children? And we already know that the majority of the firearms that are used in illegal activities are not legally owned firearms. We look at the majority of the crimes that are committed in New York State, most of them are firearms that don't even meet the SAFE Act compliance. So clearly they didn't come from New York State. How the hell, right? But that's a whole nother thing on the fact that the SAFE Act is unconstitutional, the fact that the New York State's laws are unconstitutional. But this brings me back to the Black Revolution and January 6th. So people joined up in Washington to stand up for their rights to redress the grievances with the government. People were upset with the way that the election was handled, and they felt disenfranchised. They felt as though their voice was not being heard, and they could not have faith in the election system because of the fact that it is very opaque. Okay, that you can't. It's very non-transparent. Okay, and that's not just the white people that went there that feel that way. Almost every Black person that you'll speak to that is a Black American feels that way. Okay, very few Black people will tell you that they trust and believe in the election system. Many will tell you that they have no faith, and that's why they don't vote, and that's why so many Black people, especially in the Northeast, don't vote. That's problematic. So these people on January 6th, some of them were Black too. Many of them were Asian. Ooh, there was a lot of Asians on that went down to Washington, D.C. on that day because they know most of them aren't far removed from communist dictatorships or totalitarian authoritarian governments. Like, they know what time it is, which is another reason why I love New Americans. Like, some New Americans are some of the greatest, most patriotic people you'll ever meet, you know, because they really respect and appreciate the rights that we have here in America, and they're willing to fight for them because they don't have them where they come from. Blessings. But that day, if there was ever a day when Black people were going to have a revolution or really put forth the fact that they are not happy with the way that the government is doing Black people, they should have been in DC on January 6th. Should have been there. That was your chance. You wanted a revolution? That was your chance. That was your chance to redress your grievances with your government en masse, because the majority of the things that are the complaints of Black people are also the majority of the things that are the complaints of white people. The fact of it is that the majority of the white working class and the Black working class want exactly the same thing. The majority of the poor whites and the poor Blacks want exactly the same thing. That's why they do everything that they can to help divide us. That's exactly why. Okay? And if that was just these people trying to redress their grievances with the government to actually have their voices heard, more of us should have been there. But because they've separated us so much from people that have the same concerns as us because of race and because of the stereotypes and the concepts that they're pushing on us, we were not a part of that. So we couldn't get our voice heard on our concerns. That would have been the day. Never again will there be a time in which we will be able to ever have anything that looks like a revolution, because the government is continuously doing something to push back against the American people. So I think it's very, very important that we look at things for what they are. If we're going to talk about a Black revolution, what even does that look like? And that drives me into what we're experiencing right now as a nation. I call it the fall, right? So we are in the fall, and at some point we will hit bottom, and it's coming faster and faster and faster. Now, what is the fall? The fall is the collapse of our society. Honestly and truly, the collapse of our society, the way that we know it. We see the issues with the food. We see the issues with the financial market. We see the issues with all of these people losing their jobs. We see all of these issues with the government continuing to creep further and further into more government overreach. We're losing all of our rights and all of this and all of that. And Black people are not largely as a collective standing. If Black people as a group put a concerted effort to stand behind the Constitution and support our constitutional rights, we will be much further along as a people. But they continue, and by they, I mean the neo-Marxists and the white liberals, continue to tell us that that's not in our best interest, that America hates us, that we can't achieve anything in America. But there's a whole bunch of Haitians coming over here on boats, dying in the middle of the Caribbean, dying to get over to the American shores. There's a whole bunch of Africans making the journey through the southern border, dying, being raped, mutilated, sold into sex slavery, sold into indentured servitude, trying to come to America. And you guys are like, oh, America hates us so bad. It's so bad to be Black here in America. Okay. If you say so, but it's not true. And where's this concept being pushed from? Neo-Marxists and largely white liberals who use their moral superiority to talk down to Black people when they have independent thoughts that do not align with their own neo-Marxist rhetoric. I get the most crazy things that people say to me because I don't agree with their neo-Marxist rhetoric or I don't support their idiocy. I'm not about to sit here and go along with nonsense. Like nonsense, especially that's not going to benefit me or my people as a whole. And you can cut it the way you want to when I say my people, whether I mean Black people or I mean Americans. In this case, it's no difference to me. It's the same. Okay? Because it's not going to benefit either Black Americans or America as a whole. So that's what's really going on. And we're not addressing these issues. The fall that we're experiencing right now, with every fall, there's a couple of things that happen. You have a fall, boom, you hit bottom, boom, you go back up, right? So as the fall continues, eventually there will be a bottom and then the rise will come. Now, the question is, Black Americans as a people, how are we going to be able to take advantage of that and maximize our potential? And for my white viewers that are listening, you guys need to be considering this as well, because this is very important. How are you going to be able to maximize your potential during this crisis as it continues to rapidly accelerate? But people aren't thinking like that. They've got people talking about, all the police are racist. Oh, all the white people are bad. Oh, all of this stuff that's not going to benefit us and not helping people to realize what's actually going on in our communities and in our nation and in the world as a whole, right? Like nobody's paying attention to that. How can we maximize both financial benefit and gain control to means of productions, even though we know that the government is trying to take over the means of productions of everything and trying to set regulations so that they can control everything, so that the elites are the only ones that have the power and access to real stuff. Separate conversation, blah, blah, blah. World Economic Forum, blah, blah, blah. Bilderbergs, blah, blah, blah. Rothschilds, blah, blah, blah. Blue Bloods, blah, 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 etc. All the people at the top that are really the same people working together to basically disenfranchise all of the people that are in the lower classes and the middle class to make upward mobility less possible. If you're wondering what I'm eating some ginger. But it's a very serious issue. And we really need to consider how in this downturn, like we're about to hit a Great Depression, the Greater Depression, right? Like it's going to be worse than the Great Depression. Right now, we're in a depression. Like they changed the definition of what They changed the definition of what a recession is. So, which was before 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. They changed the definition of that because they don't want to, because the federal government doesn't want to say that we're in a recession. We're past recession. We're past recession some time ago. We're in a depression. And it's about to get worse because of the debt burden. And they want to raise the debt ceiling even more And this again goes back to the reparations. Y'all want to add more debt on top of that? Like, we're already being crushed by the debt. And people say, well, I don't owe that debt. The government made that debt. Da, 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 da. Okay. Are you on a barter system? You understand what I'm saying? Do you have a whole bunch of gold or copper coins at your house somewhere? Okay. Because as far as I know, you're still operating inside the monetary system that we have currently. So yes, that would affect you. Don't be foolish. Okay. Don't let them sell you a dream. Okay. We got some comments. Let me see what we got going on. I know the okay. Tyresha, am I saying your name right? Just let me know. Okay, Tyresha says, I know the cops in Gates are racist. I got years of documentation to prove it. Gates used to be a sundown town. This is a wicked, racist country, and it's reaping what it's sown. I disagree. I'm going to start with the second statement. I'm going to work my way back. I disagree. I don't think that this is a wicked, racist country, okay? Because this is our land. Again, Black Americans are American Indians. We are from here. There is nothing racist inherently about this land. There is nothing racist inherently about the founding of our current nation, okay? People who founded it could have been racist, okay? People who are in it can be racist, but to say that the nation is racist is one of those things that basically you're saying everything is racist, because there's no country in the world where as a Black person, or let me rephrase that, whereas somebody that looks like this complexion, okay, or darker, can you go and almost achieve something? No, not one. Not even in the African countries are you as likely to succeed as you are in America. That's why we got so many Africans that trying to come here. That's why we got so many Africans on refugee lists trying to come here. There's a whole continent, 54 countries, 56 really. But we just went over it, and probably more depending on how you break it up where you are. And we just went over that. Okay, they're trying to get out of there. Okay, so to say that our country is a racist country is and I want to say it in the right way so that I can not, so that I don't completely what do I say, beat up what you're saying, because I understand the concept behind what you're saying. I just disagree with the statement itself. Basically, there's nowhere in the world you can go and look like this and almost achieve what you can in America. That's why we have such a serious immigration issue right now. That's number one. Now, you mentioned that the Gates police are racist, all of this, right? And Gates used to be a sundown town, whatever the case is. Okay. See, here's the deal. Used to be a sundown town. A lot of the country used to be a lot of different things, right? So I don't think that it's fair or reasonable or even just, and I don't really believe in fair. So let me just say just to make that statement as a blanket statement. Okay. Yeah, hell yeah. I'm sure there are racist people out there, but I know there are racist people right in my neighborhood, right up the street from where I live, and they consider themselves to be the whitest, most liberal Democrats in the world. I got one very important person in mind. I'm not going to mention their name, but you know, so for us to say everybody would be it wouldn't be a stretch of imagination to say that is probably a gross overstatement. Okay, not to take away from your personal experiences that have made you feel in that manner. Okay, because I would never discount your personal experience, and I wish that you would have had more positive experiences, you know. But even though me personally, like, I'm a very strong supporter of the police, okay, I am, but I've had negative experiences with the police. I'm gonna tell you about the most two negative experiences I've had with the police. Most negative experience I've ever had with the police in my life was this. I was walking through my backyard. This is the one year that I lived on the Northeast, and I'll never live on the Northeast again off of Dewey. I never live over there until they fix that area because it's crazy. The crime and the drugs and everything is out of control. You think it's bad on the Southwest where I am now, bro? No. No. So we're over there. Excuse me. We're over there in the Ravine area. Okay. In the Ravine, Glendale area, whatever. And it's probably, let's say 8 o'clock at night, something like that. 8, maybe 9, right? So at the time, I was working like, I don't know, a lot. Like, if you guys know me, like I'm always working, right? So I was working like, let's see, from like 8 a.m. basically, it was 8:30 till like 7, 8 at night. Okay, most nights. So I was working 6 days a week at the time. Okay, so I'm a hardworking, tax-paying American citizen. So I'm walking through my backyard. Through my backyard, there was a empty lot or whatever the case is. And people would walk through my yard all the time. It would piss me off. It'd be a problem. Okay. Orlando, I don't know if you're watching this. I know you've got a problem where you are with people walking through your yard, through your backyard and stuff too. So I understand. But anyway, I walked through my backyard with 2 of my friends at the time. They're not my friends at all anymore because they're little bitches. I said what I said. You know who I'm talking about. Little bitches. Anyway, so which the fact of the matter is that they consider themselves to be strong gangster ass people. Okay? Strong gangster ass people. And that's not a joke. Like, both of them were members of gangs or whatever the case is. Bullshit. Okay? So we're walking through my backyard. We're going over to our friend's house. Okay. And this white dude, okay, rolls up on us and puts a gun to my head and says, demands to know where we're going and what we're doing, blase, blase, blah. Some white dude randomly, right? In this neighborhood, right? At this time of day, right? So anyway, long story short, he marched us down to our friend's house where we said we were going with a gun to my head the whole time. So yeah, for lack of a better story, for not for lack of a better story, I have a feeling about that situation, so I'm trying not to have that level of emotion about it. But we get down to my friend's house and then the guy leaves, right? So I call the police. I'm like, yo, this crazy white dude put a gun to my head for no reason. You understand what I'm saying? They're like, oh, well, we're going to send out a police officer, whatever. 2 police officers come out. They're white. Okay. And I swear to God, I wish I could find out who one of them was right to this day, because me and them got beef. We need to have some words. Okay. But anyway, the 2 police officers come out. They knock on the door. We open the door. I open the door. I talk to the police officers. They're like, well, tell us what happened. So I tell them the story that I just told you, except with more detail, right? And the dude was like, oh, well, what was the guy wearing? And I tell him about how tall he is, about how much he weighed, the shape of his body, the pattern on his clothes, all of this, all of that, right? And the officer is like, well, how could you know that? It's so dark. You can't see that outside. And I'm taken aback, right? Like, I am a black young male. We don't call the police, right? Like, black males, especially black youth males, don't call the police. Like, we're not going to call the police. Like, for black males to call the police, some shit's really got to be going down. Okay? Something's really got to be wrong. Okay, which is really a cultural thing that we need to work on, but that's a whole nother conversation, and it's gotten way worse between now and then. Now you can't even call the police if you want, because it's going to take you 10 minutes to get somebody on the phone at emergency services, and then they got to dispatch somebody, and then you're lucky if they get to you within 3 hours. So we're not going to talk about that today, but anyway. But yeah, so the dude told me, how could I possibly know that? He said, well, if that's the situation and you were able to see that, then what color are my eyes? I'm like, what the bloop, 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 in my head, right? Like I can't say that to the police, but I'm in my head. I'm like, what the bloop, 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 bloop. So I told him, I said, listen, I said, you're about X amount of years old. You've got blue eyes. This is the color of your hair. This is your build. This is your shape. This is about how much you weigh. Okay. And this is your stride gap. Yeah, I hit him with the stride gap. Okay. Because up until that point in life, all I had wanted to be my whole life growing up from a little person is either the police or general. So I've trained myself consistently to pick up on small details that most people would not pay attention to. I've trained myself consistently in high pressure situations to be able to continue to operate. Okay. So the dude would look dumbfounded, right? And he was baffled. And then his partner kind of snickered. he gave one of those snickers like, haha, he told you, you know. And then his partner was like, well, what do you want us to do about it? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I want you to do about it? I want you to arrest him. You understand what I'm saying? Again, I'm a young black male who called the police. We don't call the police. What the hell do you think I called the police for? I want you to arrest him. You think I want to call you to waste your time? Did I call you for a complaint with a neighbor about noise violations? Did I call you because somebody's got a barking dog? Did I call you because somebody's setting off fireworks? You know, and I didn't go at him like that, but I just said simply, you know, because in certain situations, you really do need to bite your tongue and more people need to be able to do this. But I said, I want you to arrest him. Anyway, there was a whole bunch of nonsense that went on with that. And that was probably the worst experience that I had with the police ever. And I've had other experiences with police that I'm sure many people would think are worse than that. But that was the worst one, yo. After experiencing something like that as an individual and then having to deal with the police and the police questioning me like that, man, please. And I got, and those were two white officers, right? I got stories about black officers too. So for me to be so ardent a supporter of the police, I don't think people understand where I come from because community safety is number one. I am very firm on business and economy. So if you don't have a safe, secure neighborhood, businesses are not going to want to come, which means that you're not going to be able to get as many jobs, which means that you're not going to have as much wealth in your community, which means people aren't going to be as able to be as upwardly mobile, blah, blah, blah. You understand? So public safety is extremely important to me. So, but I forget where I was going with the point on that. There was some point I was making. I was answering to Shara. What else you said? You've been making a lot of comments here. Let me try to catch up with you. You know I didn't mean to phrase anything in a way that offended you. So, but you know that. Anyway, let me see. Never had a black person physically assault me. Just several white boys in blue costumes. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, my life experience has been probably because I live in a largely black, largely underserved neighborhood. Is I have not had ever in life as many or as serious negative experiences with white people as I have with people that look like me. Period. Point blank. Okay. The only time anybody has tried to steal some shit from me is some people that look like me. The only time I've ever been shot at is from some people like me. The only time you understand what I'm saying? The only time that anything negative has happened, and again, maybe it's because of where I live versus where you live. You know, the crime that in the neighborhood that you live in is usually perpetrated by people that look like the people that live in your neighborhood. Since look like the people that live in my neighborhood, so it's more likely that the crime is going to be by the people that look like what I look like in my neighborhood. So there's that. But I just haven't had that level of negative experiences, which are very serious with white people outside of the white dude story that I just told you about. You understand what I'm saying? So the majority of things, break-ins, stuff stolen, stuff like that, all black people, all look like me, live in my neighborhood. It's insane. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But again, it goes by orientation of the neighborhood that you live in. So maybe, I mean, if you're out in Gates and most of the people in Gates are white and you had a bad experience in Gates, well, I mean, likelihood is that it's going to be a white person. I don't know what to tell you. So does that say that some people aren't racist? Absolutely not. There's a ton of people that are very racist. I've had some experiences that I could share in another video at some point, where I used to go down south during the summer when I was little, you know? So I've seen some Southern racism down there that's like ingrained racism in people. And I'll tell you one thing for sure. I can respect racist people in the South more than I can respect racist people in the North. I'll tell you why. And I know that sounds like a crazy statement, but the racist white people up here in New York smile to your face, act like they like you to your face, or say that they're doing something for you and your people to your face, and behind back doors, they're doing everything to disadvantage you. Down south, they'll tell you, oh, I just don't mess with black people. That's fair, bro. You ain't got to tell me but once. You don't mess with black people? Cool. I'm glad that I know. Now I don't need to mess with you. The same way I don't mess with people that don't like me. Why don't you mess with such and such? They don't like me. Why would I mess with them? Why would I do that? You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to go to a Klan rally. I know they don't really like me. Why would I be there? You understand what I'm saying? So, but again, let's go back. And I'm about to end this because I gotta get on a conference call in a couple moments here. But the fact of the matter is, with us being in the downturn in the economy that we're in right now, excuse me, as a people, we need to focus on how we're going to be able to maximize our benefit. In Rochester, we have a lot of sorority and fraternity aligned people who are doing their best to benefit their fellows in their sororities and fraternities. But we need to be working on a larger scope than that. And one thing I've realized over the last couple of years is that you're not going to be able to save everybody, and everybody's not going to listen to you. But if you are really earnestly working towards benefiting as many people as possible, you'll be able to do great things, regardless of how somebody feels about what you're saying or whatever the case is, blase blah. Okay? So I encourage everybody, black, white, indifferent, doesn't matter. I don't care. Indian, Asian, whatever. Okay. And Indians are Asians, but that's a whole separate conversation. But you get the idea. Whoever you are, if you're American, you need to be trying to figure out who you can work with. Okay. Which people either in your friends group now or find new friends. I swear to God, bro, some of these people are going to have to get left behind because they ain't trying to see what time it is. They're not. And you can preach to them and you can say all whatever you want. They're not on the same page. They're not even ready. I've talked to multiple different elected officials over the last couple of years, and the only thing that I can see in common with almost 99% of them is that they don't know what the fuck is going on. They don't know. They don't see it. So they're not trying to prepare for it. Again, like I said, the government and the people in the elite status have structured it so we're not able to see past our day-to-day trivials because we're trying to figure out how the hell we're going to get our next meal. We're trying to figure out how we're going to pay for childcare. We're trying to figure out where we're going to get some diapers from. We're trying to figure out what pantry are we going to go to because the food pantry is all out of food. You know? And that's not everybody, but that's a general conception. Most people in America, including people who we would consider to have some more money, live paycheck to paycheck. I think it's like it used to be $500, but now it's like $300. Most people couldn't flip a bill for $300 if they had an emergency. And that's a fact, Jack. We need to figure out how we're going to be able to benefit from this downturn in our economy. I got some plans and some ways and some stuff that I'm working on to maximize the benefit of as many people as possible. But as I pitch my ideas and concepts to many people, like people are just not with it because they don't see what the hell I see. And it's not And I don't expect you to see what I see. I don't expect everybody to take part in my vision. But if I can continue to get the message out there that we are in a time of great economic, financial, and cultural shift in our nation and across the world, I'm going to preach that message for, well, I mean, the shit, at least the next couple of months. Because I'm working on what I can do to maximize stuff for myself now, because I've been preaching this message so long and so few people are willing to actually take action on what I'm saying and actually listen. I got to worry about myself. While worrying about myself, see how I could maximize the stuff for myself and also benefit others at the same time. But I got to shift my focus because not enough people are willing to listen. And I guess that's on me, right? Because I do a lot of talking about a lot of things, and a couple years ago, I got very frustrated, very disheartened, and since we're on the Black conversation here, I have never had more people say more racist shit about me than Black people that look like me, that are from where I'm from. That's where the most racist shit comes from. It's insane. It's insane because of the values that I have. The values that I have are going to raise up our people as a whole. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane. And I don't, and I got very upset. I'm hurt, whatever the case. And I talked to the Lord, and the Lord was like, I told you to go out and preach. And I did not say that your message was for everybody or everybody was going to accept your message. He said, go do what the hell I said to do. And I said, but. And he said, what? I said, nothing, you got it. Because how am I going to go against the Lord, right? Why would I even buy? Where would the benefit even be? Why? But that just goes to a larger point, right? Like, your message is not for everybody, and everybody's not going to listen. Keep championing your message. Stay strong in your conviction. Keep preaching. Those who do hear you, who your message is meant for, will gravitate towards you. Okay. And they will start hearing your message. And you may impact, like, sometimes I feel down, right? Because I have a very serious message that a lot of people are unwilling to listen to. And I feel down, and then I go outside, or I'll go to the mall, or I'll go shopping or something, or I'll be walking, and somebody say, hey, keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the fight. And that touches my heart. That gives me the confidence to continue to move forward and go on. Because all of the hate and animosity that I get from a lot of different people that I'm just trying to help, right? Like, I'm just trying to set them up to be able to be successful with my priorities and what I want to get done, so that they can benefit, so that they can have a better quality of life for themselves. And not everybody's going to see that, but some people will see that. And when people just stop me or send me a message or whatever the case is and say, I appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing, keep it up. That gives me the fuel to continue going on forward and push forward more strong. But I got to moderate what I'm doing so that I can be better for myself and grow forward for myself, because not enough people want to see what's actually happening with what's going on. So we've got to figure out how we can maximize our potential with what's happening. We've got to make sure that if we're going to talk about revolution, okay, for Blacks, that it's a revolution that's based on our Constitution. Okay. Like, it's these things are extremely important. And if we're going to talk about, next month is Black History Month, and I go back to this, they're going to say a whole bunch of stuff about Africa. We are not from Africa. Black people, American Blacks, are American Indian. We are not African, period, point blank. Okay, I could give you various reasons. We talked about the economic and the ship reasons earlier, because why would you ship in all these people from other countries that across the ocean that takes months to get here, when you've got a whole bunch of people that you hate here right now that you could enslave? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? They're already accustomed to the environment. They already know how to do the soil. They already are set with the diseases. They already know about the foods and stuff. Why would you go get some people that you have to train to do that? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody with a half a brain or that cares about making money would ever do that. That's not realistic. And we're not being realistic when we have these conversations. Nobody can prove, even with a reasonability of anything, that we are from Africa. They'll say, oh, well, the slaves came from Africa. Did they? Did they, though? Prove it. Prove it. You have physically no proof. There's no physical proof of that in the numbers that they say that it was in order for us to be here now. It's not. And I love you all. I encourage you to go do better and be better. And I encourage you to keep foraging forward. Keep going forward. Keep going. Don't stop. You guys be blessed. Be well. I'll catch up with you later.